Canadian voters will be heading to the polls. CTV News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to call a snap election this Sunday.
But first, we're getting new insights into what led up to the fiery crash landing at Canada's largest airport last month that sent 21 people to hospital. Good afternoon. The Transportation Safety Board released its initial findings into how a Delta Airlines passenger jet ended up flipped upside down on a Pearson runway.
The preliminary report outlines some of the factors leading up to that crash landing. Our Sean Leathong has more on how aviation experts are responding to the report. Sean, what have you learned?
Well, Michelle and Nathan, the Transportation Safety Board's report doesn't specifically point any fingers, but it does focus on the specific level or angle of descent that the plane was going through last month right before it crashed, and that was the concern of one of the experts I spoke to today. The preliminary report issued by the Transportation Safety Board this morning says that the Delta CRJ 900 that crash-landed at Pearson Airport last month was descending far too quickly in the final few seconds.
Well, everything was normal right up until about the 150-foot mark.
In a video released by the TSB today, the chain of events are detailed.
The side stay attached to the aircraft's right main landing gear fractured, the landing gear retracted, and the wing root fractured between the landing gear and the fuselage.
According to aviation expert Phil Dirty, the aircraft was descending at a rate of over 1,100 feet per minute, while the landing gear on the plane is designed to withstand a maximum of just over 700 feet per minute.
With Endeavour Air, their classification of a hard landing is anything over 600 feet per minute. So like I said, when they impacted the ground, it was way beyond the structural limits of the aircraft.
Once the landing gear failed, the plane impacted and rolled onto its right side.
The right wing detached from the fuselage, releasing a cloud of jet fuel, which caught fire while the aircraft began to slide along the runway.
Interviews with passengers on the day of the crash spoke to how the landing seemed normal until the last few seconds.
And when we hit, it was just a super hard, like I hit the ground.
Everything, drop it.
Of the 80 people on board the flight from Minneapolis to Toronto, 21 people were sent to hospital and no one was killed.
The question remains is why there was such a high rate of descent. Usually at about the 100 feet mark, where it's starting to pull back, the 150 feet, they're pulling back on the power, also starting to level out the aircraft to reduce the descent rate. But that didn't happen. The descent rate actually increased. So it begs to wonder what was going on in the cockpit.
The TSB is saying they ran multiple simulations to better understand the circumstances surrounding the crash, and their final report will be issued much later. And Delta and Endeavour Air has released a statement where they say they will continue to cooperate with the investigation, but they will refrain from any further comment. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you. Still ahead, investigators are working to determine the cause of a deadly apartment fire in North York that left a woman dead and a man in critical condition. More on that coming up a little later in the newscast.
But first, CTV News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to call a snap election this Sunday, with Canadians heading to the polls as early as April 28th or possibly the following week.
CTV's chief political correspondent Vashi Kapelos has been in touch with her sources on Parliament Hill.
Well, this is kind of the worst kept secret over the past few weeks here in Ottawa. It was well known that the Liberals did not want Parliament to return, which was supposed to happen on Monday because opposition parties had threatened to take them down. And I think the coincidence or confluence of that with the fact that Mark Carney doesn't hold elected office right now means that the Liberals wanted to get a mandate. And then strategically or politically, it goes even further because the public opinion polls in the last 6 weeks have swung so far to the Liberals' advantage, they want to be able to capitalize on it. All of that informing the decision to call the election Sunday and to bring about really as short a campaign as possible so they can do really what Doug Ford did in Ontario and again try and capitalize on the fact that Donald Trump is right now the ballot box question for Canadians. So we anticipate either April 28th or May 5th, a very short campaign, election day on either of those days, and we will know for certain likely by Sunday whether that's the case. And then it's off to the races on a very competitive, very competitive condensed campaign. Back to you.
Pierre Poilievre spoke in Quebec this morning announcing a plan for what he calls shovel-ready zones. They would be areas pre-approved for large-scale industrial and resource projects.
First, we will identify a spot that looks appropriate for a mine, a pipeline, an LNG plant, a power station, a hydroelectric dam. Second, we will make sure that the place is safe and that it won't harm the people or the environment to put the project there. Third, my government will do the necessary environmental studies in partnership and collaboration with the provinces, municipalities, and we will carry out the necessary constitutionally required consultations with the First Nations up front.
Poilievre also called on Prime Minister Carney to release all the details of his financial investments before Canadians go to the polls. Poilievre says the Liberals' leader has admitted to millions of dollars in conflicts of interest in his holdings and has said he'll come up with a plan after the election. The Tory leader says that is unacceptable and insists they must be disclosed now. Carney has an event scheduled for later this afternoon in Edmonton.
The NDP leader was also out this morning in Hamilton. Jagmeet Singh says he's ready.
I want to see a plan that creates jobs in Canada using Canadian content. I want to see that economic plan put in first, and then we go to an election. But it's clear that Mark Carney wants to go first in an election, and so that's what's going to happen. But we're ready for an election. And in this election, the choice is clear. Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre have already shown you they're in it for the billionaires. They're in it for rich CEOs. They're in it for those at the top. We're in it for you. We're in it for workers. And that's why we're so honored to receive the endorsement of United Steelworkers with great honor.
The New Democrats say they will have a full slate of candidates in every riding from coast to coast to coast. In 2021, the NDP had 201 candidates when the election campaign began.
We have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. We did have some rain this morning, but it looks like things have cleared up for the most part, but more rain is expected. As well, a bit of a cool down is on the way on the first day of spring. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Nathan. Welcome to spring. And yes, it did feel like it early this morning when the season officially arrived. But you're right. Temperatures are now starting to tumble. Let's take one more look back at yesterday's highs. Our first 20-degree day in the city of Toronto, easily the warmest day of the year so far. Now we're at about 10 degrees in the GTA, and the temperature is only going to fall from here to about 6 by the time we're finished with the afternoon. We've got some strong winds out there right now coming out of the southwest, gusting close to 60 kilometers per hour locally at this time. Those winds are going to change direction, and as a result, temperature will fall. We've also had some wet weather, as mentioned, a few showers, especially for the west end of the GTA right now. And as you can see, there is snow starting to creep its way into the province as well. Some wet snow anyway. We could see a few flurries here locally, and there's a chance of measurable snow over the weekend. We'll take you through a full look at the long-range forecast that's coming up. For now, though, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Investigators are trying to determine the cause of a deadly apartment fire in Flemington Park.
Neighbors in the building are reeling following the blaze that killed one woman and left a man in critical condition. CTV's Allison Hurst joins us live from the scene with an update. Allison.
When we first arrived, Toronto Fire, we're still here on scene, but now it's the Ontario Fire Marshal, Toronto Police, and forensics investigators all on that 21st floor looking into the cause. Forensic investigators enter the unit looking into the cause of a fire that killed the woman inside on the 21st floor.
And I heard people shouting. I heard the shouts, so I immediately rushed and opened the door. And just when I saw over here, it was all covered in smoke. And I could see the supervisor of the building as well as the other staff banging the door. And they were trying to say, like, you know, open the door.
Meet Shah says he opened his door to see what the commotion was about and began packing a bag.
I rushed to the stairs and I went down all the way from 21st to the ground floor. And then I could see that, like, you know, all the police as well as the fire brigade. And I was like, you know, this was the first time that I saw this big of a thing.
The fire started just before 3:30 yesterday at this high-rise on Grenoble Drive, east of Don Mills Road.
All of our kitchen and the living area is filled with smoke, okay? And I was scared. Like, I ran out of the building and I gave a call to my brother.
The unit door was locked when fire crews arrived.
The crews were met with absolute zero visibility, high heat, and significant flames once they located the seat of the fire.
A man and a woman were pulled from the unit, both taken to hospital in life-threatening condition. The woman died of her injuries. The man remains critical.
That lady, maybe, who passed away, I'm not sure, but I feel so sad for her, and I hope everybody else is safe in the building.
The Ontario Fire Marshal has 2 investigators on scene looking into the cause, origin, and circumstances. Toronto police say the woman was in her 30s and the man is in his 50s. The neighbor we were speaking with says he would see them periodically, sometimes the man picking up food from food deliveries, but generally they kept to themselves. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. Police have identified the victim of a fire in downtown Bowmanville. The body of 54-year-old Kelly Ferris was recovered after several historic buildings on King Street in Bowmanville were damaged in a fire March 5th. Police say a post-mortem exam found no signs of foul play. It's believed the injuries she suffered were a result of the fire. The fire marshal's office has wrapped up its investigation at the scene, but the cause, origin, and circumstances are still unknown.
A man is in hospital with serious injuries following a shooting in Brampton. Police and paramedics responded to a home on Ballyhays Crescent near Beauvair Drive and James Potter Road just after 9 last night. Peel paramedics say they transported a 36-year-old man to hospital with serious injuries. Police are also investigating a second scene about 2 kilometers away at a plaza at Beauvair and Worthington Avenue. Investigators say the suspect or suspects fled. Anyone with information is asked to contact police.
And police in York Region are searching for as many as 4 suspects following a home invasion in Richmond Hill. Now, police say 3 masked suspects arrived at a house around 3 a.m. on Tuesday and forced their way in. They demanded car keys, which were handed over by someone inside the home. One of the suspects then went to the garage and got in a vehicle, reversing it through the closed door and through a gate at the end of the driveway. The vehicle was later found abandoned a short distance away. None of the 3 adults in the home were hurt during the home invasion. The suspects are believed to have arrived in a dark-colored SUV driven by a 4th person.
The federal government is condemning China for executing 4 Canadians. There's concern now for more than 100 Canadians who are still being held in Chinese prisons. And a former political hostage once held by China is speaking out.
It's not surprising that China would execute people, but what is relatively unusual is that it would execute foreign citizens. It hasn't done that in recent years, to my knowledge.
That's Michael Kovrig. You'll remember he was held in a Chinese prison for more than 1,000 days. The 4 executed Canadians were sentenced on drug-related charges. Global Affairs released a statement that reads, in part, Canada strongly condemns China's use of the death penalty. China's embassy in Ottawa also confirms the executions, stating the country always imposes severe penalties for drug crimes. Let's bring in CTV's Scott Hurst, who's been following this situation. Bring us up to speed. What is known at this point specifically about those who were executed?
Good afternoon, Michelle. We are learning that the 4 Canadians who were executed by China earlier this year were all dual national citizens, and as you mentioned, charged with drug-related crimes. We're also hearing from Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly, and she confirmed that the top-level diplomacy didn't just include her in her role as Foreign Affairs Minister, but also then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who made calls for leniency to the Chinese government. Joly also saying that this is a matter that she's been following quite closely for some time now, and the government is providing assistance to the families, but stopped short of providing any more specific information as per the family's request. But Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly making it clear that Canada repeatedly called for clemency for these individuals and others at the most senior levels. Here's more from the Foreign Affairs Minister.
We've been in contact with their families. I was even in contact last week with the team in China and in Ottawa that was supporting the families through these difficult moments. We will continue to engage with China as we'll continue to not only strongly condemn, but also ask for leniency for other Canadians that are facing similar situations.
Now, Michelle, China's embassy in Ottawa is also confirming the executions, but stated that the country always imposes severe penalties for drug crimes.
But Canada's calls for clemency clearly ignored by China. Our relationship has certainly been rocky. What does this say about where things stand between our countries right now?
A rocky relationship really states it, Michelle. Some are warning that this is a sign that China is not interested in improving relations. CTV News spoke with former Canadian ambassador to China, Guy Saint-Jacques, and what he had to say is that he believes the timing of the execution is likely not accidental. Here's his thoughts on the executions.
The timing of the execution, I don't think is accidental. It's just to show to Canada, look, you know, you will have to make concessions if you want to see the relationship improve.
So in terms of this rocky relationship right now, of course, there is the tariff showdown. China not happy with Canada slapping 100% tariffs on electric vehicles. And now China is retaliating with tariffs on Canadian canola producers and also 25% on seafood products. So in reality right now, despite the high-level diplomacy, as you mentioned, it is a fractured relationship, notably going back to 2018 as well, when Canada detained a high-level Chinese executive. But then also that led to the arrest of 2 Canadian citizens, one whom we heard from just before bringing me into this conversation, Michael Kovrig, and also Michael Spavor. So it is quite a rocky relationship, and despite the high-level diplomacy, Canada could not get its message through to Chinese officials.
CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
China's 100% tariff on Canadian canola products is now in effect. The tariff covers canola oil and canola meal made in our country. This is Beijing's response to Canada's 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. In addition to the canola duties, China has also hit Canada with a 25% tax on seafood exports. It's the latest blow to an industry already facing a 25% tariff from the U.S.
For the first time since the collapse of a ceasefire, Hamas fired rockets into Israel overnight. The Israeli military says 3 projectiles were fired and no one was hurt. Meantime, dozens of Palestinians were killed in a 3rd straight day of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. That was according to health officials. And look at this. Rescuers managed to pull a 1-month-old baby girl alive from beneath a pile of rubble in the southern city of Khan Yunis. Her father did not survive. Israel resumed its airstrikes on Gaza on Tuesday and launched ground operations inside the territory on Wednesday. At least 592 Palestinians have been killed since then, with the fragile ceasefire that had been in place since January effectively shattered.
Astronomers have made a surprising discovery. Oxygen and elements like heavy metals have been found in the most distant known galaxy. It is 13.4 billion light years away. The galaxy is unusually large and was initially detected in January 2024 using the James Webb Space Telescope. When astronomers followed up on Webb's initial observations, they were stunned to find the presence of oxygen and heavy metals. Their presence suggests that galaxies formed more quickly than expected in the early days of the universe. Lindsay.
Well, spring has officially arrived, and you may have noticed that we're gaining daylight at a rapid pace right now. In fact, we're gaining about 3 minutes of daylight per day for the next 7 days here. So we have welcomed the season at 5:01 a.m. It was mild, but now temperatures are starting to fall, and we are going to be below seasonal for much of the first week of the new season. A bit of a chilly start to spring. We'll take you through the 7-day forecast after this break. You're watching CTV News at noon, and we'll be right back.
What better way to welcome the first day of spring than with some ice cream? The sweet treat made even sweeter today because of a special birthday and connection to the Children's Miracle Network. Let's check in with our Jessica Smith, who's at a Dairy Queen in Scarborough as the chain turns 85 today. A sweet assignment.
It's a sweet assignment, and we are here at the lunch rush. There are probably about 60 kids that have just walked in. Hi, everybody. But we are here for a really special reason. Yes, Dairy Queen is celebrating 85 years, but really special this year. A lot of the proceeds are going towards the Children's Miracle Network. I'm joined now by Adam from the Children's Miracle Network. Talk to me about this partnership and what it means to have this community support.
Yeah, it's all about the energy that's in the room today. There's 40 years of partnership with Children's Miracle Network and Dairy Queen in Canada. All the money raised today and throughout the year support the local children's hospitals across our country, and we're just so proud of our partnership with DQ.
And I feel like it's something really unique because everything that we're raising today goes back towards a hospital that you've probably been to or somebody you know has been to. How important is that connection? Because I feel like at some point in our lives we're all touched by something that brings us to the hospital, and this is really important to have this kind of local support.
Yeah, that's right. There are 13 children's hospitals across our country, and as you say, we know that if it's not us, it's our friends or our neighbors or our family member who have been in those hospitals, and and the money from our partnerships really support that work that's happening there.
And how does it make you feel to see all these people here today? I mean, we're near a couple of schools. They say, hi, Mom. And they're here getting their ice cream. How does it make you feel to see all the support?
We love seeing the energy. We love seeing the community come out, and partners like DQ just make it all happen.
We're going to try to get the representative from DQ over here, but he's busy working. But I feel like this is one of those things where you have to see it to believe it, but you also know that your efforts are going right back to helping this community, the one we're standing in right now.
That's right. You know, my guess is that many of these kids have been to sick kids, and so to know that they're helping to support the hospital and the great work that they're doing is a pretty amazing thing.
All right, we're going to try to get the man of the hour. So that cone right there, that blue one, that's a special one. Talk to me about what it means to have this kind of support and to see all these people in here. How do they access the ice cream? Because we want to make sure they're doing it the right way.
Yeah, awesome. So what they do is they have to, if they're an existing Wards member, they can just open the app, log into their account, and under deals, you'll see the free cone. If they're not a DQ app user, you have to download the app. And when you sign in, you make an account, and it takes about 5 minutes, and the deal will come up, and you can redeem it.
So you were talking to me about this viral dip that you guys have. Talk to me about that one, because that one's over here.
So it's a crunchy cookie dip. It's gone viral. We're almost out of it today because of all the high school kids that are here today. And also, you can dip your cone for $1 more. The proceed goes to Sick Kids Hospital. So a lot of the kids, a lot of people that are getting the free cone are dipping into chocolate or the cookie crunch, and also the confetti cake.
You had me at Cookie Crunch and Confetti Cake. Well, it is amazing. They're going to raise a ton of money for local children's hospitals. Thank you guys both so much. We're going to send things back inside. The lineup is only getting bigger, but you know what? Ice cream today is the first day of spring, and it all goes to a great cause. I'll send things back to the studio. Say bye, everybody.
I'm trying to figure out, do I have enough time on my lunch break to get there to get some ice cream? It looks great, especially on the first day of spring. What better way to start?
Honestly, ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. I don't think they're going to have any left based on that. I'm just thinking about the teachers of these kids when they go back to class after having tons of ice cream. It's awesome. And hey, first day of spring, it feels really nice. Although it's interesting to hear that there's talk of flurries in the forecast.
I know. You know, the last few days of winter are very much looking and feeling like spring, and now things are going to shift a little bit. I don't like to jokingly even use the term fool's spring, but kind of feels like that's what we experienced the last couple of days here because, yeah, it's going to feel like winter as we make our way into the weekend. We've got a chance of flurries. There's also a possibility of some measurable snow in the 7-day forecast. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Let's talk about this morning. Not only did we have showers, but look at that. We had a rainbow over the city of Toronto. How spectacular is this shot? Captured by our CTV News chopper. You can see the CN Tower in there too. This was a double rainbow that was visible from many different corners of the city. Just beautiful. And of course, the sun was coming up as well. Lovely. I'm so happy to all who were able to capture this early this morning. We're still dealing with showers in some sections of the GTA. The afternoon, generally speaking, is going to be drier for much of southern Ontario, but not entirely. And as we make our way into the evening hours, that's when we see the potential for a few flurries moving in. Area of low pressure, it's on its way eastward. Again, we might see as the temperature cools a couple of passing flurries later on the early evening, I should say. There's this afternoon where we do anticipate a bit of a break from the precip, but not entirely in the clear. There's early evening, and then watch just as that little bit of wet snow, light flurry activity makes its way toward us here, especially for the north end of the GTA, just a heads up there. Then things are going to clear out. We're going to enjoy beautiful sunshine for tomorrow, and then early Saturday, just a heads up that we're looking at a few showers and maybe some passing flurries once again. Winds are strong right now. They are coming from the southwest. We will tap into more of a northwesterly wind later on, and then tomorrow we switch back to the southwest. So that will drive our temperature up once again. It's currently 9 degrees in the city. 9 is our forecast high for tomorrow. We've already reached today's high, which was 14 degrees at 6 in the morning. Tonight, we fall to about -4 degrees overnight. Factor in the winds, might feel a little more like -9 out there. Little snapshot of tomorrow. It is going to be a cold start, but we will have a nice rebound in temperature. 8 degrees for the high in Oakville, 9 in Vaughan. Still in the single digits, but not bad. Again, with that sunshine, I think we'll take it because here's what's in store when it comes to the 7-day forecast. Saturday, 6 degrees with those early morning showers and maybe a few flurries. Cold at night. Quite cold for the day on Sunday. Sunshine and a high of only 1 degree. It's Sunday night, overnight and into Monday, that I think we could maybe pick up a couple of centimeters of wet snow. And then our temperatures are going to be at or below seasonal through much of next week. That's the forecast. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. To a W5 investigation now. Former followers of an online spiritual group called Twin Flames Universe claim the whole thing is a cult.
W5's Avery Haynes takes a deep look at the two founders who become rich off the promise. Their courses hold the secret to finding true love.
Twin Flames Universe is a mostly online spiritual community with hundreds of thousands of Facebook followers and about 2,000 paying students from around the world. For 3 years, Victoria Bonilla was one of them. She says it's a cult.
It doesn't happen overnight. You don't walk into a door and it's this full wackadoodle story. It's like the frog in the pot. You turn it 1 degree at a time, and then suddenly you're boiling.
The Twin Flames Universe promise is that if you pay for their online programs and coaching, which can cost thousands, even tens of thousands, you will heal the trauma that is keeping you from your true love. Their website is overflowing with glowing testimonials.
I manifested harmonious union with my one true love.
Rediscovered my true gender. Finally accepted myself as the divine masculine.
If you follow me, they are going to fall madly in love with you. I pinky promise.
It's a business model that has paid off for founders Jeff Devine and his Canadian wife, Shalia Devine.
Today, we just discovered that we're not just millionaires, we're multi-millionaires.
Their Instagram feed is a non-stop highlight reel of luxury.
Lifestyle of the multi-millionaires, of the rich and famous.
From a spiritual matchmaking group, Jeff and Shalia's teachings have become more religious. And more outrageous, with Jeff comparing himself to Jesus.
Has Christ come again? He's got the beard and the hair. Could I be the Christ? And I'm not hiding anything. Like, I'm literally telling you I'm Christ.
But rather un-Christ-like behavior is revealed in videotape sessions where Jeff berates his followers for not volunteering enough for the movement.
My business depends on all of you. And I want to make sure that all of you doing your jobs.
We were all working hard. Nobody was any closer to their twin flame or any relationship. So we're like, what's going on? You know, it's not working.
And then a bizarre twist. Former follower Angie Moggy, who lives in Ontario, says Jeff claimed he was getting direct messages from God and started pairing up people in the online community.
Some people are matched with complete strangers, people they'd never spoken to. There was a man, 100% like gay, matched with a cisgendered woman, and had to work through that block.
How is this not a sex cult now if he's forcing partners?
In this message to followers, Jeff and Shalia made it clear disobeying them is disobeying God.
So when God tells you something, you need to respect it. If he says that's your twin flame, respect it.
They call it the all-seeing eye for a reason. You cannot escape God's gaze. Why would you want to?
Coming up in part 2, shocking allegations that Jeff and Shalia Devine have brainwashed some of their followers to change their gender from women to men.
Coming up, new research uncovers a link between cannabis use and the increased risk of heart attack or stroke. We'll have the details of a surprising study in moments.
A new study out of Boston University suggests using cannabis may be linked to a higher risk of heart attack.
And there's one particular age group at greater risk. We get the details from our health reporter, Pauline Chan.
The researchers did a retrospective study of more than 4.6 million marijuana users, plus a meta-analysis of 12 previously presented studies. It found a 50% increased risk of heart attack in those who used cannabis, and surprisingly, those under age 50 were 6 times more likely to suffer a heart attack.
Higher risk of cardiovascular events like heart attacks, arrhythmias, heart failure, strokes,
and all-cause mortality, which is especially surprising because the cohort we chose was a young cohort and relatively healthy with no hypertension, diabetes.
The researchers say some caution must be taken in interpreting the findings because cannabis use is often associated with use of other illicit substances, such as cocaine. Doctors say the mechanisms or components of marijuana which affect the cardiovascular system are not well understood, but the researchers hypothesize cannabis might affect heart rhythm regulation, heighten oxygen demand in the heart muscle, and contribute to endothelial dysfunction, making it harder for blood vessels to relax and expand, and so interrupting blood flow. One previous study suggested the risk of heart attack peaked at 1 hour after consumption. Dr. Ibrahim Kamel recommends doctors regularly ask patients about their cannabis use, much like asking about smoking.
The amount of evidence is growing and by every day, and I think that they should have a frank discussion with their patients that, well, cannabis is legal does not mean safe.
The findings will be presented at an upcoming American Cardiology Conference. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A new report suggests Canada should gradually raise the retirement age to 67 in order to address labor shortages and help sustain pension systems. The C.D. Howe Institute says the change will put the country in line with successful international models. The report calls on provincial governments to adopt targeted policies to support older workers, such as flexible work arrangements and part-time career opportunities. The study also suggests Canada should invest in high-quality training programs for underrepresented groups, focusing on digital skills and job search strategies.
A Montreal woman says she ordered a meal kit and got more than she bargained for.
A surprise addition to her Hello Fresh box has raised a debate over drug advertising in Canada. CTV's Lawrence Brisson-Debrow reports.
Along with recipes and ingredients, a pamphlet promoting a prescription medication.
And a $50 gift card to get an Ozempic prescription online at LiveWell.
A Montrealer shared her shock in a TikTok video. The HelloFresh customer says she's outraged. She declined an interview saying she'd leave it to experts. One of them, Dr. Rémi Rabassa-Loret, says a meal box is no place for a prescription drug ad.
It's weird, it's odd, it's inappropriate. I'm extremely concerned to see some big pharma companies stretching in all those rules.
Drug ads are restricted in Canada. Known as reminder ads, companies can only list a drug's name, price, and quantity, explains marketing expert Eric Blais.
You can't really say what it's for, and you can only somehow create general awareness of the brand name.
Hence the slogan, "Is Ozempic right for you? Ask your doctor." Blais says Canada's advertising rules need to change with the times.
How are you going to control that sort of noise on social media and on other online platforms? It's almost impossible to regulate the sort of messaging we're finding on social media platforms.
Ozempic is primarily used to treat type 2 diabetes. However, it also became popular for its weight loss potential. Dr. Rabassa-Loret says that's a problem.
It is not a quick fix. It is one of the tools in our toolbox that should be prescribed by a healthcare professional within a pathway of care.
He says it shouldn't be this easy to purchase Ozempic.
It is not Collège des Médecins approved. It is not pharmacy organization approved.
Dr. Rabassa-Loret says the manufacturer Novo Nordisk is pushing the limits. But in this case, the ad comes from telehealth company LiveWell Canada. CTV News asked LiveWell if Novo Nordisk approved the ad, but didn't receive a response in time for this broadcast. Blais says this also raises questions about HelloFresh.
This is such a disconnect.
HelloFresh responded in a statement to CTV News. A spokesperson says the company strives to meet customer needs, including promoting relevant products, adding, "While this offer may have been perceived positively by some, we understand that this may not be the case for all. Another concern is who's receiving this ad," points out clinician Tanya Lemoine.
Some of the people who are opening those boxes have eating disorders or maybe are feeling ashamed about their bodies.
For some experts, ads like this show how outdated the rules are for medical advertising. They say medication should help, not harm. Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
Finland is once again ranked the happiest country in the world, while Canada continues to fall in the World Happiness Rankings. According to the World Happiness Report and data collected in 2024, Finns are the happiest people on Earth for the 8th year in a row. Experts credit Finland's strong welfare system for boosting its mood. Meanwhile, Canada ranks number 18 this year, down from the 15th happiest country last year and the 13th in 2022. The United States fell to 24th place this year, and Afghanistan is again ranked the unhappiest country in the world.
Still to come, a senior is sold a furnace and air conditioning protection plan despite not owning a furnace or air conditioner. We have details after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
These days, many Canadians are choosing to buy homegrown brands, including alcohol, to send a message to the U.S.
But for restaurant owners, doing the same thing is hard because of internal trade barriers. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has more on the barriers at the bar.
Vineyard General Manager Will Roman says the sale of alcohol in Canada is inefficient and is limiting his profitability.
I'm not set up for success because of that.
Wineries like this one in Lincoln, Ontario are not allowed to deal directly with most bars and restaurants in other provinces. They must first sell to the local provincially run distributor. Finding improvements for interprovincial trade was the focus at this panel discussion in Halifax.
I can't say how many times I've heard it's easier for me to access Alabama than Alberta.
In Nova Scotia, government rules require all booze to flow through the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation before being sold.
If we were able to get that easier at a more affordable price that we could introduce our guests to, then that would be a win for everyone.
Bar owner Jeff Van Horn believes removing some of these trade barriers could help his bottom line and offer support for small businesses across the country.
We wouldn't be serving our community if we weren't serving products that are local and support the Canadian economy.
Selling first to the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation instead of directly to small businesses can also cause delivery delays.
They cannot contact us directly and be like, hey, Rosewood, we want to order this product at this amount of cases.
Roman also can't offer bars and restaurants a cheaper deal. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston says he's working on a solution as provinces struggle through some of the same hurdles in the U.S.-Canada trade war.
Free trade in Canada. It's one country. We should trade freely within our countries.
Houston is calling for sweeping changes to trade barriers in general, not just the rules that impact the sale of alcohol. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Door-to-door sales in Ontario were banned 7 years ago, but companies can still approach homeowners with certain products or services.
A senior in Scarborough signed a contract last year to protect appliances in her home she doesn't even have. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
You're being sued.
Mark Blaschek visits her friend Dolores McLeod often, as both live in the same Scarborough complex. McLeod has early onset dementia and has trouble remembering things.
I don't like the fact that Dolores was taken advantage of.
Last April, McLeod signed a 5-year contract to purchase carbon offsets and a furnace and air conditioner protection plan for almost $102 a month. It's something she doesn't remember signing.
Did someone come to your door?
They must have, but I don't remember who or when. I'm sorry.
McLeod got a letter from a lawyer saying she is now being sued for not paying for the protection plan for the furnace and the air conditioner. But she has no furnace and she has no air conditioner. McLeod received a notice saying she must pay just over $2,300 immediately. She doesn't have AC and heats her home with electric baseboards and a gas fireplace.
The protection plan is for furnace maintenance and also air conditioning maintenance. And we don't have those things in our units.
In the follow-up call Offset Ontario made to McLeod, she told them twice she didn't have an air conditioner.
I don't have an air conditioner. Does that lower it?
No. I'll just repeat myself again.
Okay, as I said, I don't have an air conditioner.
So it's a yes, right?
Yes.
Blaschek feels her friend should not be responsible to pay more than $2,300 to get out of the contract.
I want my friend to get some justice, to have this letter go away.
When CTV News reached out to Offset Ontario, a spokesperson for the company said Offset Ontario is committed to ensuring any contracts are not placed with vulnerable people. The file has been canceled from collections, and the individual is no longer liable for any debt owing. Blazczak is relieved for her friend.
It's great that the situation is resolved, and thank you so much, CTV. And Pat, thank you so much for all you've done for us.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Hudson's Bay is still waiting to see if it will be granted approval to liquidate stores. Lawyers for the department store are asking for up to 2 more days to resolve contested issues. During prior hearings, halting rent payments to RioCan Real Estate Investment Trust, which it holds property through a joint venture, and other vendors were disputed. The discussions are holding up the liquidation of Hudson's Bay that they'd hoped to have started this week at all 80 of its stores, after the company filed for creditor protection on March 7th.
To sports, the Toronto Scepters took on the New York Sirens last night following a lengthy break.
Loses the puck, now Daryl Watts keeps it herself. Watts shoots and scores!
Toronto opened the scoring with a goal in the first period. They added another in the second on their way to a 2-1 victory. The Scepters are back on the ice Sunday to play Montreal. The team is currently in 3rd place in the PWHL standings.
Make 2 good saves. Morris wins the draw. Matthews in front, scores on the tip.
And the Maple Leafs were looking for a second straight win when they took on the Colorado Avalanche last night. It was a low-scoring affair, but the Leafs managed to come out on top, winning 2-1. The Leafs will be back on the ice tonight to play the New York Rangers. The Leafs are currently tied with Florida atop the Atlantic Division.
Here's Booker, the open 3.
And the Raptors will try and bounce back from an ugly loss as they wrap up a 4-game road trip tonight against the Warriors. The Raps were crushed by 40 against the Suns Monday, scoring just 11 points in the second quarter. Toronto is 8-25 on the road this season. RJ Barrett will miss his 3rd straight game tonight. Tip-off is at 10.
Coming up, a teen taking down the competition, becoming a champion arm wrestler, and reaching for new heights in her sports. That's something I've never seen.
A young girl from Waterloo is making a name for herself in the world of arm wrestling.
She only started competing about a year ago and is already ranked #1 in Canada for her age and weight class. CTV's Spencer Turcotte has the story.
Ready, go.
These arms are mid-battle, but when you zoom out, one of the competitors may come as a surprise.
Push hard.
At just 14 years old, Iti Manchanda is muscling her way to the top in the sport of arm wrestling. And she's doing it rather quickly, only getting into it about a year ago.
My most big competition was the Asian International. So I won 1st place there in my age and weight categories. And then I also won the Canadian National Championship and the Ontario Provincials. So yeah, those are 3 of my biggest ones. And then there's also the Michigan State.
Earning her the title of top-ranked female arm wrestler for her age and weight class. Here's how she got there.
So this used to be our dining area. So we have converted the dining area now into a gym.
From eating food to eating up the competition, her dad has helped her rise.
Since she's born, she's strong. She's on the stronger side. Even back in India, I used to go to the gym and she used to come with me, and I think she was 4 years old. And she used to hold 5-pound dumbbells and she used to just copy what I'm doing.
And it's paid off. Wanting to test her strength, naturally, she began challenging him to arm wrestles.
And then my mom was like, okay, since you love arm wrestling so much, why don't we find you an actual club you can train at and compete?
So that's exactly what she did, joining Table Monkeys in Toronto, where she gets professional coaching.
A lot of people think arm wrestling is all just physical, but it's a lot about your mental game also.
Another aspect she's wrestling with, trying to get more girls involved in the sport.
Because they're not enough, definitely. Like I go to a tournament and I'm only with 2 other girls every single time.
To expand her range of competition, she'll be up against people much older than her.
I want to see if I could take down the Canadian 18-year-olds.
And of course, E.T.'s ultimate goal is being crowned world champion, and she's well on her way. Spencer Turcotte, CTV News,
Waterloo.
Yes.
Look at the arms on Spencer Turcotte.
I know. He's got some guns. And look, she beat him.
I'd be afraid to arm wrestle her. No chance.
No. Let's arm wrestle after the show.
All right, sure.
Bring us home, Lindsay.
All right. So weather-wise, we've still got some wet weather out there right now, but we are expecting some clearing as we head in through the afternoon. Here's one more look at the satellite and radar imagery. It might dry out a little bit, but we are... pardon me, we're going to take a look at tonight's lows. -4 for the low, wind chill -9. Yeah, some of those showers are going to move out. And then tomorrow is a mostly sunny day, but it's going to start off cool. It will end more mild. So, yeah, you might need the parka first thing tomorrow morning, but the kids probably don't need it for the walk home. 7-day forecast brings us cooler conditions over the weekend with a chance of showers on Saturday morning and a chance of some accumulating wet snow Sunday night and into Monday. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.